morning routine that's supposed to calm you down might be the very thing winding you up. I've got a confession to make. I teach meditation for a living. And what I want to tell you is this. I've been practicing for decades, and there's mornings where I wake up anxious in the morning before I've even put my feet on the floor. Just this low, quiet hum of something. I feel like the day's already pressing on me before it started. So if that's you, if you have a morning routine, if you've worked hard at the morning routine, if you've tried every morning routine someone has ever filmed a YouTube video about, and you still wake up with anxiety sitting on the end of your bed waiting for you, you don't need a perfect morning to have a good day. I really believe that. I'd go further. I think for a lot of us, the relentless pursuit of a perfect morning is exactly what's making things worse, not better. And that's what I want to talk about today. So let me tell you about what my own morning looks like, because I think people that assume that someone like me is a meditation teacher, happiness specialist, all of that, has this completely sorted. Well, I have it pretty sorted, but not completely sorted. You know, that I float serenely out of bed in the dark and light some kind of candle and sit peacefully for 45 minutes and then glide into my day like a person who absolutely has got it together. It's not like that. What actually happens most mornings is that Scamp, one of my beloved dogs, who in the morning is a medium-sized chaos agent, and I mean that affectionately, hears me stir and starts making small, insistent noises that it's time to go out. So that's how it begins. I get up, I take Scamp out, and then I turn on the kettle and I have a cup of coffee, all right? And I stand there with my hands wrapped around the mug, and I just want to arrive, just want to be there, trying to get out of my head as to what I've got to do today and into my actual body, in my actual, space on this actual morning. And sometimes that takes 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes longer. Some days, honestly, I'm not sure it happens at all before I'm already in the thick of something else. And for a long time, I felt genuinely bad about that. I'd think, you should know how to do this already, Mon. You teach this, and that voice, that quiet little critical voice, was its own form of morning anxiety, an anxiety about not managing my anxiety correctly, which is a very special kind of exhaustion, if you've ever been there. So I went through a phase many years ago where I decided to build what I can only describe as a proper morning routine. Capital P, capital M, capital R. I'd read enough, and I had heard enough that I thought, right, let's do this. So set my alarm for 5 o'clock, and I had my journal all ready, and I had a sequence worked out: wake up, glass of water, meditation practice, writing, some kind of movement, all of it done and dusted before the world literally started knocking on my door. Now, I want to be honest with you about how that went. I remember it felt worse, but measurably worse, because my morning had become a performance. And I was executing something rather than actually living it. So there was this constant low-level monitoring running in the background the entire time. Am I doing this right? Is this long enough? Did I actually get quiet in my meditation? Or was I just sitting there thinking about whether the sitting was working? And by the time I got to my cup of coffee, I was more tightly wound than when I'd started. So the ritual had completely got in the way of actually experiencing the morning. It's almost like the form had swallowed the feeling. And I've tried it a few times since in different configurations, and I get the same result. And also the worst thing is, I wake up in the morning and I'm anxious because I've got this particular thing that I have to do rather than I want to do. So I hear versions of this all the time in my work. And people talking about habit stacking and all this terminology that makes me feel a little bit exhausted. So a student that I know was finishing her postgraduate degree, actually, in New Zealand. She's sharp as anything. She was the kind of person who does everything thoroughly, everything really well. And she told me that once she'd set up a 9-step habit stacking morning routine and she was tracking it in a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet. I'm a terrible, I hate spreadsheets. So that already got to me. And she said that with this genuine bewilderment on her face, I do all of it and I still feel terrible by 9 o'clock. And she asked me what she was missing. So she wasn't missing a step, she was just missing herself. So she had built this very effective system, an efficient system for starting the day, but she'd left almost no room in it to actually be present in the day. So the routine had become the point rather than the feeling she'd hoped that the routine would create. Also think of a friend of mine as well. She's in her 60s. She gardens like it's a spiritual practice, which I suspect it actually is. And she told me once about the best morning she'd had in years. It was after a power cut. No alarm went off. She woke up naturally. She lay there for a while. She got up slowly. She made tea on the gas hob, and then she just sat outside in the garden, watching the light come up over the fence. That was it. No sequence, no tracking. And she said she felt for the first time in ages like a person rather than a to-do list. And I keep thinking about the power cut morning because the thing that made it good wasn't the absence of structure exactly. It was the presence of her in it. So she wasn't executing anything. She was just there in her own morning, actually feeling it. So here's what I think happened culturally with all of this. Somewhere in the last decade or so, morning routines became a product. And the implicit promise of the product is if you perform this sequence correctly, you will feel good. You will be calm. You will be ahead. You will have won the morning before most people even awake. And because we're human and we like clear instructions and we're genuinely trying to feel better, we followed the sequence. We created the habit stacks. We set the alarms. We brought the journals and the supplements. And in some case, apparently, the cold plunge machines. And the anxiety didn't go away because it was never going to. Not like that. So the anxious feeling in the morning is not a scheduling problem. It's not something that gets solved by getting up an hour earlier or adding one more thing to the list. What I've come to believe, and this comes from a long time of working with people and watching myself, is that the anxious feeling in the morning is often a signal. It's a signal that you haven't arrived yet, that you've woken up but you haven't quite landed. You're already in your head, you're already in your future, you're already planning and managing and monitoring, and part of you is quietly saying, but I'm not there yet. I'm still here. Can we just be here for a moment? So performance and presence are not the same thing. And we've been sold a lot of performance dressed up as presence. So I want to offer you something. Not a routine, not a list, just a question. The question is, how do I want to feel today? Not what do I need to do today? Not what does the spreadsheet say I should be doing right now? Not what would be the most put together version of me doing at this hour. Just how do I want to feel today? Something interesting happens when you ask that with any real honesty. Your body already knows the answer. Maybe today you feel genuinely wrung out, and what you actually need is 10 very slow, very quiet minutes before anything else begins. Maybe today you feel restless and you want to move. You want to get outside and let your feet and your legs have their say. Maybe today you feel a bit tender, and the kindest thing is just to sit with your tea and let yourself be tender for a little while before you go off to be competent and on top of things in the world. So the question doesn't tell you what to do. That's the whole point. It reconnects you with yourself. And that reconnection, even just a few minutes of it, is what actually shifts the anxious feeling in the morning. Not the cold water, not the breathwork timer. Coming home to yourself, even briefly, before the day takes over. I've just put out a guided morning meditation on YouTube built around this exactly. It's 10 minutes. It's about genuinely arriving in your day before your day starts running you. If that's like something you want right now, then you can go and find it on my YouTube channel. I've been doing this for a long time now, and one of the things I keep seeing over and over is how hard people are on themselves about the very things that are supposed to be making them feel better. So the journaling makes them feel guilty when they miss a day. The meditation sends, some kind of crazy notification when you break a streak and then you feel like you failed at something. The morning routine with all its habits stacked becomes a bar that you either clear or you don't. And more often than not, some small disruption, the alarm didn't go off, or someone needed you early, or some small thing, the night before was rough. It tips the whole thing over, and suddenly it's not even 8 a.m. and you've decided it's going to be a bad day. This is not what any of this was ever meant to do to you. So if you're curious about where you sit with all of this, where your own patterns around happiness and anxiety tend to show up, go to IintendToBeHappy.com, take the free happiness quiz. I'll leave the link in the description. So here's the thing that I want to leave you with today. The morning is not a test. You don't have to earn your day. You don't have to prove something about yourself before the sun has properly come up. There's no version of the cold plunge that will make you feel present if you haven't actually arrived in your own body yet. There's no journal prompt that will quiet the anxiety if the act of journaling has just become one more thing on a list of things that you fear you might fail at. So the tools are only useful if you're actually in there using them. And by using them, I mean bringing your actual self into contact with them. Your tired self, your messy self, your uncertain self. Not performing a wellness routine at them from a safe emotional distance. So what makes a morning good? And I've had enough of them now to have an opinion. The good ones and the terrible ones and the ones that went completely sideways before 7 a.m. What makes a morning genuinely good is not the number of things you fit in before work or before you start your day. It's whether for at least a few minutes you were actually there, in your body, in your day, noticing the mug in your hands and the light coming in, and maybe a dog staring at you with that specific look dogs have when they're very sure you've forgotten something important. Just there, actually there, not watching yourself from a safe distance, not scoring yourself, just in it. That's enough. It really, genuinely is enough. A good morning isn't built, it's inhabited. I hope this was helpful. As always, be kind, take care, go gently in the world.